Okay, hello, Joshua. First of all, good morning to you. Good morning to our audience currently that will be listening. Thanks for having this conversation with me, taking the time to talk with me and to tell your story. And welcome to Nico's storytelling show. How are you feeling today?
I'm pretty dandy, Nikolai. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. First of all, you have written more than 80 books in the past 12, 13 years, like you mentioned from 2011, you're currently standing at 83 ghostwriting books for other people and for yourself as well, which with my calculation is roughly 7 books in a year. A number that most people don't even read through. Let's not talk about write a book. So this is definitely an impressive milestone. The other thing that stood out to me was that you're a number one Amazon best-selling author. Your book called, well, I've written it down here, so good they call you a fake. I love the cover as well, how you've managed to transcribe this title. And at some point, I would love to dive deeper into it. But there are plenty of reasons and effects and experience that you can tell to our audience. And something else that I paid attention to is that you focus a lot on the art of persuasion to tell people and to learn people how to actually use it in their daily lives. So as usual, when we are introducing our heroes, when we are following their journeys, I like to start from the humble beginnings, from the initial environment that triggered you to take this path. Can you walk me and the audience? What did it look like around 2010, 2011 when you started ghostwriting and when you embarked on this journey?
Sure thing, Nikolai. I appreciate the introduction. So I became a professional ghostwriter completely by accident. I think the hero's journey begins with a call to adventure that the protagonist is not expecting whatsoever. I will often have second thoughts about that. That was true for me. My call to adventure came when I had wanted to be a novelist. I got a 2-book deal from a small independent publishing house right around that time, 12 years ago. And I had also been doing some freelance writing on the side, basically words for cash was my shtick at that time. As I was doing book signings and promoting my book and taking selfies with fans on flip phones, back when you had to turn the phone around and try to take a selfie and it would be off center and smudged because that's how selfies were that at that time before the mass adoption of smartphones. Something interesting happened to me, and that was the call to adventure, which was difficult to ignore because it was the same call from two different people. Two of my readers, independently of one another, both of them older individuals, said to me, Joshua, I have wanted to write a book longer than you've been alive. I've read yours. It's pretty good. In fact, it's so good, I realized I should have my autobiography, my memoir, read like this, like fiction, like a novel. That way it'll be interesting to read, just like your book is. Can you help me with my book? And I thought, as long as I don't stop working on my next novels, I think I'll do it. So I was a little bit of, I was a little resistant to taking it on entirely, this ghostwriting journey. But I did. I said, okay, fine, sure. I'll help you write your book. And that was the climax of Act One for Joshua Lysak, ghostwriter, is saying, okay, fine, sure, I'll help you with your book. To both of these authors, of course, promising myself, actually, I'm going to focus on still writing my own fiction and stories and whatnot. And that fell by the wayside because when you are writing nonfiction books for other people, you really can't side hustle that.
Mm,
Fortunately, it's not something that pays poorly. It is not something that pays poorly. It is a living. It has been a living ever since. I was able to shortly thereafter quit my full-time job at I think it was an Inc. 1000, very successful, very large private company at that time. I talk in So Good They Call You a Fake, my nonfiction book, all about that experience, what I learned in that position, why I quit, what I brought with me out of there, and more. But you are absolutely right that storytelling, the hero's journey arc, is essential to understanding ourselves, understanding great authors, frankly, as well as to understanding persuasion. Because, Nikolai, you could tell a story, but if it's not a persuasive story, it's not a good story, in my opinion. I could go off on that a little bit more, but I want to make sure you can steer our little ship here a bit first, if you'd like.
For sure, I would like to also jump into this as well, but something just as a question that pops into my head while we were walking up. Now, you mentioned that you have started with writing your own novel, writing your own book. And I suppose this one of the feelings that popped into your head by this time provoked the title so good that even though they call you fake. But the question is, how did it feel when somebody older than you, somebody with more experience than you, actually trusted you to write their own book? And how was your resistance? Was any time that you wanted to focus on your book and throw away the other?
Yes, there were plenty of times where I promised myself I'm going to get back to I'm writing my own stuff. I'm going to get back to writing my own stuff. And I didn't for a while. I did eventually in the year 2021 write another novel. I did in a new series on a new genre with all new characters and cast from the previous one, and that was intended to be the start of another series. But of course, I got called back into the game, so to speak, of nonfiction book ghostwritings. That's how I've been able to get to 83, 84 total books ghostwritten now, which a lot of people, when they hear that statistic, they say, oh, there's no way. He's obviously lying. That's totally fake, which is why I call my book So Good They Call You a Fake. It is a riff on a book by Cal Newport that came out over 10 years ago called So Good They Can't Ignore You. The trouble, Nikolai, is that everybody is so good they can't ignore you because we have an international economy. There are thousands of ghostwriters, tens of thousands of ghostwriters in this world that are all vying for a limited number of projects. And if I was so good they can't ignore me, they would, meaning the potential author clients, because everybody is so good they can't ignore you now. You have to be so good they call you a fake. You must be cartoonishly effective at what it is that
Mhm.
you are good at to get attention. Because without attention, you have no influence. Without any influence, you're not going to get clientele, frankly, in a hyper competitive global economy. And it turns out that many people believe that I am so good that they call me fake. And there's quite a bit of, let's say, negativity, critics, trolls, and even outright haters. And I was canceled by American media
Mm,
last
well,
year because of the topic of the hero's journey. By the way, we could go into that if you like.
okay, that's quite shocking, to be honest. I didn't expect to go on that road. And actually, you say so many things with, and I extract so many gems while we were speaking. What I want to focus on, or let's transfer it a little bit on the hero journey. And you mentioned that you need to, first of all, know yourself if you want to follow the hero journey for yourself. And obviously, when you're writing for somebody else, in my opinion, it's easier to follow the hero's journey or to just analyze somebody else because those people are in front of you. And it's much more difficult to know all of the aspects of your personal life. Even sometimes we ignore some of the traits and some of the characteristics. How exactly do you break down the hero's journey when you're writing for somebody else or for yourself? And is it easier for you to take a look from your perspective or from somebody else's perspective?
Yes. So from my perspective, most people, this might get a little bit of hate, and that's okay. Most people refuse the call to adventure.
Yes.
There is a well known quote here in the States. I don't know if it was an American author who said it, but the quote goes, most men live quiet lives of desperation.
Mm,
And the reason most people live quiet lives of desperation is because when you repeatedly refuse the call to adventure throughout your life, you're not particularly living for anything besides paying the bills,
Yeah.
subsisting, consuming product, more and more product. That seems to be an issue, as you probably observed in Western countries, more and more consumption of this, that, and the other, and less meaning, purpose driven lives, families. And it's because of the refusals of the call adventure, because it's scary. And because we have such a, for most people in the West, speaking about the United States and other countries in the Western world that I've visited, for the most part, it is a safe and comfortable, not for everyone, not in all circumstances, but overall, it's safer and more comfortable than at any point in human history.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to live a quiet life of desperation because there's so many things to distract you from the call, be that TikTok videos
Yeah.
or your favorite supermodel on Instagram or the new season of the show just dropped. We gotta binge watch it, or just plain doom scrolling on Twitter, now called X.
Yep.
And so that little voice that calls to us about what we know that we should be doing, it's easier to crowd it out with noise. And eventually the signal drops and it's too late. That is everything I've just said is extraordinarily unpopular. People do not like that idea that life could pass them by and it be too late. But that is, in fact, the situation that I have observed. And I know that's the situation I have observed because I have ghostwritten more books than most people have read, including for authors who had at one point in time refused their own call to adventure, be it in their personal life or in their business or in their career or in public life. I've ghostwritten for a number of celebrities, politicians, and high profile CEOs. And the vast majority of them had refused the call for a number of years, if not decades, before finally taking it up, but observing others in their personal life and in their industry and their network and even in their family who did not accept the call to adventure. Because adventure is scary. It's the unknown. It's moving from one country to another. It is starting an enterprise based on an invention that you have, or at least an idea for an invention. It is proposing to your high school sweetheart
Mhm.
when they're only 19 or 20 years old, and most people don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's doing the things that most people don't do, the things that are unsafe, the things that the vast majority of people in your life will say, well, that's not smart. That's risky. People saying that's not smart, that's risky, those are naysayers. And it's so easy to get talked out of your own adventure. So that is my perspective. And it's reinforced by the authors that I talk to, because the people who do accept the call to adventure have lives worth writing books about. I think that says enough.
Okay, very great observation. I just to mention it because if we dive deeper into this topic, we'll probably need a couple of hours. But it is quite ironic how we as a humanity, as a society, the innovators strive to be better, to create better technology, faster smartphones, better computers, laptops, whatever the case is. But at the same time, we are using it not to enhance this call to adventure, but actually to silence it out and to have all of those distractions at our disposal. Because the screen that we're looking at, we can use it either for mindlessly scrolling, as you mentioned, or to hop on a call, have this conversation, create this email newsletter that will reach a bigger audience and do all of those necessary stuff to actually take the path, trigger the call to adventure, and then embark on the journey. You mentioned it already that you've been canceled by the mainstream media for this following the hero's journey, which is quite obnoxious. While we see all of the mainstream movies, series follow the same structure, it's engraved in our senses, in our DNA. But why do you exactly think was the reason and why? Yeah, why should we ignore the call to adventure? What was the reason?
Yes. So what happened was over the years, I have observed authors when trying to, aspiring authors, when trying to tell their own story, they skip right to the end. And when they write their book, they want to talk about their great successes,
Yeah.
the spoils of war, so to speak. If I did it, so can you. It's so wonderful, blah, 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 blah. But they skip over all the formative years. They skip over the hard times, not the highlights, but the lowlights,
Yeah.
because that's not exciting. And people don't want to hear about that. And that's embarrassing. I don't want to talk about that, but that's what people need. So that you come across as a three-dimensional persona, not as a perfect guru in your industry. It's a difficult conversation to have with many people because even if they have lived a life of answering the call to adventure, they may not want to talk about what happened before they returned from their quest. And this, I noticed, is a mistake of most modern filmmaking, television, online series, even down to comic books and cartoons, particularly with the roles that female characters, women, have. And this observation brought me to writing a rather long, might have been 12,000 word piece that I published on Twitter, now X, last December 2022. And it initially popped off and became quite popular in a positive way because so many people resonated with it. The story, or rather the post that I wrote, was about this anti heroine archetype called the Mary Sue. If you're not familiar with the Mary Sue concept, a Mary Sue character is a perfect female protagonist who, like many of my aspiring authors, their entire story begins with them, or in the case of the authors, their book begins with
Yes.
them as perfect. And all the answers were within you all along. How nice. And so these characters, be they Galadriel from the latest Rings of Power debacle of Amazon Prime, that video, to the Rey character from the Star Wars fan fiction sequel trilogy, to even Bo Peep character in Toy Story 4, and all of manner of female characters across the last 9 years or so, 8 to 9 years of media. They have been the Mary Sue anti-heroine archetype, where they begin the story
And
at the very end of the hero's journey, or in this case, heroine's journey, where like they're unnaturally perfect and they say the right thing at the right time and they just show up to save the day. And everyone else around them has to go through trials, temptations, and great suffering to have even a modicum of success compared to them. It's this sort of yes, queen vibe
yeah,
of these characters. Like, you go, girl. Yeah, you show those men. Huh. Screenwriting, and it's terrible, and it's noticeable, and it's humiliating. And I wrote about this, and it became quite popular very quickly with people agreeing with it. There were particularly females, women, journalists, actresses, writers, even filmmakers, and even just plain old entertainment consumers who said, this is exactly what I've been telling my husband and kids for the last 10 years. What happened to women in fiction? They're all the same character where they're perfect from the beginning. And because they're so perfect, they can get away with being bad. And so often you will have these heroine characters engaging in unethical, downright immoral behaviors. But it's okay because they're the hero. They're the hero. They're the heroine. It's okay. So it's excusable. It's okay when they do it because, like, oh, look, she's badass. Hashtag girl boss type of vibes. It is annoying, particularly to women, because that's all we as half the human race are, is just a one-dimensional jerk. There might be another word that we would use in American English to describe such a character. I didn't use profanity in my piece, but people know
yeah,
is something that might be discussed. Anyway, this article that I wrote now known as the Mary Sue thread. It was found by the entertainment industry, the sort of people who are the creators of Mary Sue characters and the customers of Mary Sue products, entertainment products. Let's just say that I woke up that Sunday morning, the first Sunday of December of 2022. I checked the news headlines that day, and it's me. I am the news
Well,
that morning. I am in the national news. No joke. And
that
I am also 8 of the top 10 trending stories that weekend on all of the Twitter platform, now X. And the thread, let's say, got roughly 13 million views. That the thread gathered over 20 or over 48 to 72 hours. And my name was dragged through the mud. I was publicly canceled. It was this horrifying and delicious experience, which became the impetus for me to finish my book, So Good They Call You a Fake. So now people know the Mary Sue archetype more than ever. And since then, I made it safe for people to criticize the entertainment industrial complex for their botching of the heroine's journey, let's say, the Mary Sue character. And so there have been a number of articles, think pieces, videos, even documentaries about Mary Sue in the last year or so, because I made it safe to talk about. I took all the flack, so it's okay. He got taken out. He got taken off the board, so to speak.
it
And
will
it's also
cover the
worth
thing.
pointing. Yes, it's also worth pointing out, Nikolai, that women have a different journey than men do, and that ought to be obvious from a biological perspective,
Indeed.
but also from a sociocultural perspective. That there is a distinct heroine's journey. So women do not go on a hero's journey. Men do not go on a heroine's journey, for the most part. And I think that these modern entertainment producers I have no awareness of what a heroine's journey is. They just say women are better than men suck because I'm a feminist writer and that's what I learned at university. So I need to say that. And my characters only be perfect women and terrible loser men. And that is reflected by American entertainment the last 8 to 9 years.
Look, on the last piece, I just want to mention that I understand why they might do it because it's target the groups of people that make the most noise. And somewhere or another, this would be a very beneficial marketing campaign, a lot of awareness surrounding. The first example that pops into my head is the new adaptation of Snow White, sorry.
Yes.
And so it's not the only example for this, but you're quite right that no, no person, no matter male or female, is born perfect. Or when they want to achieve something big, whether it's taking care of a family, of a big family, or conquering a new company, a new castle, whatever the situation is, you need to go through those trials and tribulations. They actually make it for a better outcome at the end because, as you mentioned, as your example, if you didn't see your name out of the nowhere in the news channels, you wouldn't be the one who finished your book. It wouldn't trigger you to finalize the book eventually. So it's just plain stupid to believe that you will not face any obstacles if you want to achieve something. This is what I'm trying to do with this show, actually, to shine a little bit more light on the how necessary those obstacles are.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And in fact, in the hero's journey story, the archetypal story, there are obstacles. If anyone looks up or reads any scholarly material on the proper structure of a hero's journey, there are in fact obstacles. There is a midpoint, a big twist that nobody saw coming. There is a crisis, second thoughts that happened after the crisis that is supposed to occur before the great confrontation against the foe. Most people never get that far because, oh, it's too hard. I would rather keep my 8 to 5 job, lay low, play video games, refuse the call to adventure because there might be obstacles and it might be hard. And video games are more fun. And yet, how much more interesting is it to make a video game out of life? If you look at consider any film that resonates across the generations for decades, and the characters are interesting because of how they respond to obstacles.
Yep.
If you take any popular character, male or female, that resonates across generations, across time, you will note how they prove themselves in the face of tremendous odds, or even just plain difficulties and discomforts. Most people are not willing to do that because it's more fun to not do that, because there's more material comforts, pleasures, and delights available to those who refuse the call to adventure. I believe in the book The Hobbit, the original book,
Okay.
1930s, there were conversations. I might be misremembering it, confusing with Lord of the Rings, because it's been a number of years since I've read those novels. There were hobbits who thought Bilbo Baggins, and of course Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, insane for leaving the safety and comforts and pleasures of the peaceful, wonderful, heavenly even Shire, which was far and away from all conflict happening elsewhere in the world. And yet the stories are interesting, not because they listened to their neighbors, but because they didn't.
Yep. And I love the fact that you brought this example up. It's one of my favorite stories. And although you mentioned the book, it's relevant in the movie as well. You see it on their faces of the neighbors, like when they take on this journey, they're looking at them. Are you really going to do this? You are not a natural hobbit. Why are you leaving the Shire? It doesn't make sense to the neighbors and the whole community over there. It's quite the good catch on this one, and it's definitely reflected in the movie as well. And something else that I wanted to ask you and to transition into a little bit more. Now, storytelling and again the hero's journeys, you're quite you have quite the expertise on this. And you focus on how important persuasion is and persuading others. How do you exactly storytelling with persuasion?
Yes, so a story is okay, beginning, middle, and end. That is the most basic structure. Hero leaves, hero does stuff, hero comes back.
Yeah.
Different. That is the hero's journey in a nutshell, so to speak. Attention is influence, as I said. And if you want influence, therefore you need attention. How do you get and keep attention? One way is through persuasive storytelling. What is persuasive storytelling? Persuasive storytelling is where your story is so good that people have to share it. They take it serious. They act upon it. They say to themselves, that's me there. I want that too. And this is where another knowledge base that I have overlaps with storytelling, and that is hypnosis. I'm a professional hypnotist, and I don't do any sort of stage work where it's a illusionist type of making a spectacle of anyone, nor do I do clinical work where someone sits down in my office and I bring them through breaking their smoking addiction, or helping them lose weight or get better sleep or release anxiety or deal with some sort of childhood trauma or anything like that. I am a bit of an applied hypnosis expert. And applied hypnosis is where you bring the principles that work in a hypnosis session and you bring them to bear in communication or in storytelling.
Okay.
So, hypnotic storytelling, another way to say persuasive storytelling, is where you tell stories that your audience can relate to. And you have the characters say the things and do the things that you want your reader or your audience to believe and do. So you embed commands into the dialogue between the characters. And because the person is reading something, they're frankly in a multisensory trance. Because when you're reading a story or you're watching a story, what's happening? Your brain is entirely engaged. If you look at the audience in movie theater, they're all staring at the screen, eyes wide. Yeah, they're in a trance. Someone who is reading a novel, their brain is constructing how things look, how things sound, how it feels, and they're gripped by it. They're page turning if it's a good novel. And all great storytellers have to be hypnotists because they have to understand the multisensory experience of the human mind and how to slip past the conscious filters. So it's not an analytical or boring story where the characters are one dimensional, where everything is revealed and it's all tell and no
Yeah.
show, because you're supposed to show and not tell. So when I am ghostwriting stories, I mean,
Right.
audio, just a second.
Mhm.
When I am ghostwriting stories on behalf of my clients, I am well aware of this. And so we choose stories to tell that are exemplary of what we want readers to do. And we embed commands into them about what to do. And we choose stories that the person does the thing we want clients or we want our readers to do as well. And that is persuasive storytelling, where you see in the person's story, "Oh, that's me."
Yeah.
And then you're in rapport. Your story is in rapport with them. And then you can help influence the person and what they do with their lives or with their organization or with their business or with their personal life or whatever the topic is of your nonfiction book or your memoir. You can influence them to act in a certain way. All great persuasive storytellers understand this.
And it sounds like it you still need that good bond, that good connection with your audience, with your potential people, just to first of all to realize what exactly do they want to hear, what exactly are they expecting from the novel, from the movie. So then you can, once you know what they want, what is happening in their minds, then you can portray it better on your product, which is very applicable in selling products and services as well, not only creating fiction or non-fiction, but pretty much most of the marketing campaigns. If you manage to connect it in some way with the story and make this story relevant to the potential audience, then it's almost a done deal. And I love the fact how detailed you go into those tactics and know what exactly is helpful when you want to apply some storytelling into your efforts. But in I there is a danger to continue this conversation, this episode in a couple of hours if I want to get all of the information from you. But one by one, I want to I know a little bit more about what exactly is your personal favorite story, because this is something that I like to ask each guest when we get into the zone creating something and when we're in search for new motivation, new inspiration. Times out of 10, there is a specific story that we always relate to. It might be from childhood, it might be a favorite book that you, as you mentioned, for example, The Hobbit. What is the story that you always relate to when you need that extra push, that extra motivation?
The Hobbit story, particularly the novel and also the Peter Jackson adaptations, those came to me at the right time in my own life and in my own journey, because here we have a fellow who's leaving the comforts of home. Right around the time that the first of the film adaptations came out was when I had begun, I had got my two-book publishing deal, like I said, for the novels. I
Okay.
had a comfortable 8 to 5 salaried position that was probably going to go places, but there's only so far you can go in corporate America. So I wasn't going to go further than bag end, let's say, or at least I wasn't going to go much further than this particular organizational hierarchy would allow. And that's most people and most jobs. And Ohio is a pretty comfortable place for the most part. So it was an okay way to eke out a living and have a nice little place to call my own one day. It was right around that time when the interest began picking up for having me ghostwrite books, having me work. I had mentioned at the outset of this interview that I had a I will write words for cash
Yeah.
freelance writing side hustle back before people use the word side hustle or side gig. And I thought, I think I can make something of this. So I did a few projects here and there for a couple of years, a year and a half, 2 years by that point. But I embraced the call to adventure. And I did something that is risky, which was I quit my full time 8 to 5 salary job with all the benefits that every American professional worker talks about is how important it is to have a good job in America. It's because you get all these benefits and healthcare and whatnot. I cut it all loose. People thought I was nuts, but I bet on myself. So I left the Shire of comfortable corporate America, salary, safety, security, and bet entirely on myself. And it was right at that season of my own life and my own journey that the Hobbit films came. And there was a mapping of that story onto mine, although mine was a bit less interesting because there aren't rock monsters, there weren't any trolls, there weren't sword, steel, anything exciting like that. But what was strange about mine is there wasn't a promise of the lonely mountain, a dragon to slay and treasure at the end. It was, gosh, I hope this works. So my call to adventure was, I don't know where I'm going, but I don't want to stay here.
Yes.
The call to adventure. And you might have noticed that most people don't make that call. They would rather stay with security and comfort and safety. In fact, the science of economics is based on the fact that human psychology is predictable, and you can confirm that most people will seek safety and security over the call to adventure. So think about this. The entire profession and study of economics is based on the fact that the overwhelming majority of human behavior is in the direction of safety and the refusal to the call to adventure. And economists are able to make predictions and chart trends based on this fact.
It indeed makes it easier to predict the supply and demand even of any product or any service at this point. But it, unfortunately, as you mentioned, is the majority of the people, is the major part of how people think and how they proceed in their lives. For some reason or other, like, we crave some safety, some comfort. Most of the time we give the excuse of having the family, taking care of our children, which is definitely important and it's definitely easier if you're in a corporate job. But at the same time, we should think about the legacy that we want to leave behind, not only the material comfort that we can provide. And there are two more topics, and I'm going to say it out loud here on the episode, that I want to dive deeper into on another call with you. But I want to hear more specifically what stands behind the so good that they call you fake book. And I also want to talk about how do you see the AI technologies transforming the business for copywriters, for ghostwriters. But this is definitely another topic, definitely something that I would love to keep in touch with you so we can explore more. And what I want to ask you lastly, is there anything else that you want to tell our audience, something that I didn't manage to ask or to bring up, something that's to leave the audience with?
Yes, I can very briefly touch on those 2 points as a bit of
Okay,
a tease to explore further. And the book, the nonfiction book, So Good They Call You Fake, available on Amazon internationally and wherever else good books are sold online in hardcover, audio, and digital.
nice.
The promise of that book and the premise of that book is that when you document what it is that you're excellent at, what you're an expert at, what you're capable of doing well, you can monetize it as books, as courses, as coaching or consulting, or done for you services. So the book teaches how to create offers that are so effective at getting results for clients that the testimonials look fake. So it's both my story and it's how you can too, the book, and actually deliver. It's gotten fantastic reviews, sold several thousand copies. That's all well and good and fun. And then the other aspect, which I also talk about in the book, is AI. And now you have to be so good, you're better than AI. It has been said that most offers in the marketplace, there's three features to them: good, fast, or cheap. Pick two. AI is all three. Even in October of 2023, and ChatGPT has been with us for just about 11 months now. it is clear to me that is going to, if not already, put at least 90% of professional writers out of business.
Yes.
If you're going to make it as a professional writer, you need to become adept at two things. Number one, prompt engineering, meaning make AI your writer. If you're a writer, make it your writer, make it your writing partner, make it your intellectual sparring partner, your research assistant. Obviously, AI is going to hallucinate. So you have to be capable of searching, let's say, PubMed or case law if you're a doctor or a lawyer or working with doctors and lawyers. Otherwise, it's going to make up studies that don't exist and make up cases and
Yeah.
precedents legally that don't exist. So you must be a capable researcher. So again, the bar gets higher. Remember I talked about so good they can't ignore you? The trouble is everyone can ignore you now because you're just good enough now. Everyone else is so good they can't ignore you. And when everyone else is so good they can't ignore you, everyone is ignorable, unfortunately. So you have to be that much good, that much better above the crowd. And that means what will get the most attention. We know that negative attention gets more action than positive attention.
Yep.
People are orders of magnitude more likely to write a negative review than a positive review. If you want attention and therefore influence, leverage that fact to your advantage, which is scary for a lot of people. But this is all about the call to adventure, is it not? So be willing to get negative reviews, to get hate mail, even to get canceled in American pop culture media, which is always fun. And on the other side, that's good because now I have freedom, frankly, because I'm already a pariah from that perspective. It's okay. It's safe. So to bring it back to AI quickly, if you want to have a professional writer, you must learn prompt engineering, effective research, of course, and also editing. Editors will be more valuable because while the content can be created quickly via or in support using the supporting tools of AI, there are still a place for human editors before or after the prompting, because there's still the issues of copyright and that things that are
Yes.
created by AI can't be copyrighted. So where is the balance there? How can you still use AI as a writer, as an editor? The writers who are able to use AI to their advantage are going to be that 10% of writers who survive, whereas 90% of them are going to wash up because AI alone is good, fast, and cheap. So if it's something that needs to be copyrighted, let's say a book, for example, then yeah, you're not going to want to use AI for that. But there's going to be lots of other aspects of using AI that will make it go so much faster that the cost of production it has been, and it will continue to plummet, such that only people who are able to use the AI tools to maximum effect are going to be able to compete.
I love the approach that you give here. Basically, what I understand is get more used to using this technology. Don't trust your ego and don't rely only on your skills. It's actually good to acquire another skill to, as you mentioned, proper engineering or better editing. Just find ways to work with the new technology, whether it's ChatGPT or all of the many AI tools that pop up nowadays. So I love the fact that you are ending this conversation on this notion. It is definitely something, again, you can see it as a new obstacle that you need to push through. You need to apply and transform yourself on this journey to actually get better and get to this end result, the castle with the treasures, and probably marrying the princess or the prince, whatever you want to end up with. Joshua, it was definitely huge honor and pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for the plenty of insights. Me as a 50% of the day I am a writer, I took a lot of gems, a lot of actionable insights from you. So thanks again for this conversation. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure, Nico. Thank you.
Thanks. Talk to you soon again.
Sure thing.